A true Christian is one who is holy, who is free from sin. It is important to underscore. Very often we say, oh, it is only human to sin. Actually, it is not human to sin. It is inhuman to sin. Adam and Eve, when they were created, they were truly that ideal man and woman before they were tempted to sin. So, sin is not part of human nature. That is why baptism removes original sin, so that we become truly the children of God. It's important for us, therefore, to try to understand the nature of sin. When we speak about sin, things are not so clear. It's not a matter of just right and wrong. Objectively, we can define something is right, something is wrong. But when we put sin in an existential context, then it becomes complex. So the church has teaching on mortal sins, venial sins. That is a definition of what sin is. But the church does not judge individual unless the individual claims that he is a sinner. Because for a sin to be considered a sin, and especially if we say it is a mortal sin, a serious sin, we have to take into consideration the objectivity of the sin itself, whether that thing is a sin, action is a sin. Then we have to take into consideration the context. A person who is raised according to circumstances, is born into an environment that is very sinful, his conscience would have been kind of dull because of the situation. He has been brought to friends that he's mixed with, his peers. All these will influence the person in doing an action. And then again, the ambience, the upbringing will determine the level of consent the person has. So some of us, because we are brought up in that kind of situation where your parents are always shouting and screaming at you, of course you also start to shout and scream as well because they shout and scream at you. So after that, it becomes a part of your life. Therefore, the level of consent will determine also the sinfulness. Then the question of knowledge. There are some people who really do something because they are convinced that it is the right thing. So ignorance also comes to play. So that's why, although we can define objectively what is sin and what is not, existentially, it is quite a complex question. That's why only the person can say, I'm a sinner. That's why Jesus says, do not judge. I cannot say you are a sinner because I'm not too sure what is the condition of your heart. If we are truly begotten by God, we know God, we will not sin deliberately. But there will be question of weaknesses, ignorance, etc. and so on. And so it's important for us, therefore, to ask ourselves, how then should we avoid sin so that we can be holy? So, a person who is living a sinful life, let's say out of ignorance, and this is often the case of most people. That's why Jesus, when he was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. I prefer to believe and to give the benefit of the doubt that most people, when they sin, even though it appears to be deliberate, it is still basically lack of consciousness, lack of ignorance. Because when we sin, we destroy ourselves. When we sin, we destroy our happiness. We take away our peace. Who wants to destroy himself? Who wants to be unhappy in life? So most of the time, we think that something that we do is the way we find happiness, but actually it's not. More out of ignorance. Of course, there will be some who are really evil, perhaps. But I think the point is, if we want to bring someone to conversion, and beginning with us, what do? We must come to know Jesus first. And I think intimacy with the Lord is the basis of conversion of life. Because we are influenced by people around us. That's what I'm trying to say. So the people that you mix with, the people that you gather with, will influence the way you think about life. And so, if we want to change our life, then we have to walk with Jesus. Intimacy with Jesus, falling in love with Jesus, Allowing Jesus to love us, that is the first step. So when we're going to change people's life, I don't believe we should proceed on the level of doctrines first. No, of course, doctrines is there. It is there all the time, right and wrong. But I think it is important to bring someone to love Jesus. When he falls in love with Jesus, then he says, I want to live the life of Jesus. Then all the other doctrinal areas of morality, of ethical living, will just flow by itself. And it is important that we have to remember that discipleship is a growing discipleship. No one becomes a saint overnight. Discipleship is ongoing. That is why a long life actually means to say God has given us the opportunity to grow, to purify ourselves in love. Being holy, it takes time. We make mistakes, we fall. That's why Jesus gave us sacrament of reconciliation, because he knows we are weak. We fall, then we start again, and we strive. We never give up hope on ourselves. We must bring others to Jesus. If we bring someone to Jesus, then the person will ask, therefore, how should I live my life? The person wants to know what is right, what is wrong. What does it mean to be a Christian? And this is where I think it's important for us to realize this. At the end of the day, I believed very strongly, if we have a community that is supportive, that is encouraging, that is forgiving, that is tolerant, a community where people have faith, where people don't give up hope, and people who have great faith in Jesus and faith in us, we will change. That is why, for me, it is very important that we need to build this community into a real community of faith, a community of love. It is in charity that we change people, that people's lives are healed, hearts are healed, and they become more loving. And this is true. That is why I say every one of us must belong to a community where we are loved, where we are forgiven, where we are tolerated for our mistakes, our nonsense. And over the years, when we are loved unconditionally, just like Jesus would love us unconditionally, I can tell you, our lives will change. How do you know you're holy? When you love your brother, when you love your sister. That is holiness. And that is how I believe we can slowly help people to live the life of truth and love.